You ever notice how peace and quiet only last until somebody decides it shouldn't? That's how it started for me. 6 acres of woods, all mine, bought and paid for so I could have silence, trees, and a little freedom after decades of city noise and neighbor drama. I thought I'd finally outsmarted the world, you know? But turns out here, the monsters don't wear ski masks. They wear matching blue polos and drive white SUVs with HOA decals. Yeah, that happened. My first week, I'm living the dream, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, scrolling through drone footage of my own land, just thinking about how I might build a greenhouse come spring. Then this SUV rolls up my gravel drive, crunching every pebble like it owned the place. Out step 2 women, mid-50s, sunglasses, faces that looked like they'd never lost an argument. I'm Karen Fletcher, president of Birch Point Estates HOA, and this is Susan, our compliance officer. The way Karen smiled at me, it was like she could already see my name on a list, her list. She tells me my land is now in their observation zone. I need to sign their declaration of participation by the end of the week. And from now on, any changes on my land have to be approved by her board. I almost laughed. I told her flat out, "This isn't your jurisdiction." I checked my deed, the county map, all of it. "I'm 300 feet outside your HOA. She didn't flinch. She just tapped her tablet, told me they'd updated their map. "It's not about jurisdiction, it's about continuity," she said, like that was some kind of magic word. I told her unless she had a court order, she could get off my property. For the first time, her smile cracked. She and Susan retreated to their SUV, and yeah, I'm pretty sure Karen flipped off my security camera as she left. Next morning, there's a plain envelope wedged in my gate. No return address. You have failed to provide verification of ownership. Further communication expected. That's it. The tone just oozed entitlement. By noon, there's a shiny metal HOA sign planted by my mailbox, 6 inches onto my side, like a dog marking territory. I pulled it up, tossed it in my shed, and that night, installed more cameras. I didn't know where this was headed, but I knew it wasn't ending with a sign. 3 days later, a sheriff's cruiser parks at my gate. Officer steps out, formal as church. Says he got a 911 call from Birch Point about suspicious activity. A possible squatter, possibly armed. I showed him my ID, my deed, my legal docs. He checks, makes some calls, comes back looking sheepish. "Everything's in order, sir. You're the owner." I asked if Karen Fletcher made the call. He nodded, then let slip that she'd claimed I might be dangerous. That was her play. Use the cops to rattle me. The officer said if I wanted to file a complaint, he'd back me up. I just thanked him and started a new folder on my laptop. Defense. Birch Point HOA. Every note, every photo, every video went in there. I was going to bury them in evidence. After that, the game changed. A drone started hovering over my trees every morning, buzzing slow and low. HOA bulletins showed up in my mailbox, naming unverified occupants as a threat to border integrity. They never used my name, but everyone knew. Strangers started filming my land from the road. More signs appeared, this time just inside the legal gray zone, Birch Point managed area. Whatever that meant. It wasn't about the law. It was about breaking me down. I called my lawyer, Eric, a guy who's half bloodhound, half caffeine. Sent him all the signs, videos, the fake emergency call, even a leak I got from a local forum. Turns out, Karen had done this before. There was a paper trail. I started talking to neighbors, too. Angela, 2 streets over, told me Karen fined her $500 for a mailbox painted the wrong shade of white. Another ex-board member shared a folder of internal HOA emails. In one, Karen wrote, "If we don't make this stick, the perimeter model collapses. We apply pressure or lose control." That's when I knew I wasn't just fighting for my land. I was fighting the whole rotten system she'd built. Eric drafted a formal demand letter and filed suit. Defamation, harassment, abuse of process. I gave the local reporter, Daphne, the full story with receipts. Her article blew up, at least by small-town standards. My phone went crazy, calls from other victims, people thanking me for standing up, others just telling their own HOA horror stories. Even Angela started helping. She recorded meetings, brought me updates, and introduced me to more folks tired of Karen's reign. The pressure campaign kicked into overdrive. New signs hammered into the easement, community patrols circling my gate, anonymous noise complaints, and, get this, a block party set up on the edge of their property, with Karen giving speeches about external threats. I just stood in the trees and waved. That was the twist. Their public show only made them look desperate. People started to see it. By the time we got to court, Eric had it all laid out. He showed the judge the maps, deeds, security footage, emails, 911 transcript, and even the HOA bulletin with my house pictured from above, illegal drone footage. Karen's lawyer tried to spin her as a good citizen, just protecting her community. Karen herself was all meekness and plausible deniability. But when Eric asked why she called 911 about an armed squatter with no evidence, she folded. When the judge ruled, she didn't hold back. $285,000 in damages, a restraining order, and a full public rebuke. You are not law enforcement. You are neighbors. And you forgot what that word means. That gavel sounded like thunder. The fallout was instant. Birch Point exploded. Internal emails leaked. Residents demanded Karen resign, and she did. Her house went dark. Angela texted me. She's gone to Alabama. Nobody misses her. A new, very humble board took over. Their campaign slogan, "Don't be Karen." Even Susan, the quiet compliance officer, stepped down. Peace at last. But here's the thing about standing your ground. It doesn't just protect your own fence. It makes people think twice before building fake walls in the first place. A month after the verdict, a neighbor I'd never met left a note in my mailbox. "Thank you for fighting." I thought I was crazy. Even now, folks slow roll past my new granite sign. Private property. Not your HOA. Not your business. Somebody left a sticky note. Preach. Angela eventually moved away, started fresh. Daphne wrote a follow-up. When the fence isn't enough. One man's fight against phantom authority. I guess I became a symbol, even if I never wanted to. I still get the odd look, the random bit of petty revenge, broken bricks over the line. A spray paint kid testing my cameras, but it's just noise now. The real power of a bully like Karen isn't her clipboard. It's people believing she can decide where your freedom ends. Turns out, if you stand up, if you make enough noise, build enough proof, call enough bluffs, bullies crumble and freedom stands. So here's my advice. Mind your fence, and I'll mind mine. Out here, that's all anybody really wants. But if someone tries to rewrite your story for their own control, you gotta fight, and you gotta finish it. Because out here, peace isn't given, it's earned. And it's worth every damn battle scar. Tell me below, where do you draw the line on community power? Ever tangled with an HOA? Whose side are you on? Order or freedom? Let's hear it. You ever notice? After a war, silence just feels different? That first real quiet after the storm. It's almost suspicious, like the woods themselves are waiting to see if you really earned it or if another fights. Hiding behind the next pine. That was me, standing on my porch, coffee cooling in my hand, watching the sun break through the trees. For the first time in months, there wasn't a drone buzzing. Nobody cruising by slow to stare, no sign hammered into my ground like a warning shot. I could finally breathe, or so I thought. See, when the verdict hit, the whole county talked. Some folks reached out just to thank me. Others, especially those living inside the invisible grip of Birch Point, they weren't sure if I was the troublemaker or the guy who finally snapped the spell. Didn't really matter. What mattered was Karen was gone, her lieutenants scattered, and the HOA itself left leaderless, a headless snake still twitching in the grass. But trouble has a way of circling back, doesn't it? One afternoon, just as the dogwoods were starting to bud, I found a letter taped to my new stone sign. No return address, no signature, just a single sentence in careful script. Some fences you build, some you cross. Which one did you do? I stared at it a while, then tucked it in my pocket. I'd be lying if I said it didn't rattle me a little. Maybe it was Karen. Maybe it was just some bored teenager trying to get a rise. But it got me thinking, did I win something real, or just light the next fuse? I kept up my routine, fixing fence posts, planting tomatoes, hauling rocks for the next bit of landscaping. But word had gotten out. Strangers sometimes drove by, slow and curious. A couple folks from town stopped to ask how I did it. What lawyer? What camera system? How to handle a bully with a legal badge. Some even brought coffee. One guy offered to help build a fire pit just for the hell of it. Community, the good kind, started growing at the edge of all that chaos. Angela came by now and then, sometimes bringing cookies, sometimes just updates. Who in Birch Point was making noise, who'd sold their house, who'd taken Karen's side, and who was pretending they never knew her. There was a rumor she'd tried to stir up drama at her sister's HOA over in Alabama, but I never bothered to check. Didn't need to. I had my peace, finally, and I wasn't about to go looking for her ghost. Still, there were reminders. A couple months after the court win, a county code inspector showed up. Routine check, he said, but his eyes lingered a little too long on the sign, on the cameras, on my pile of evidence folders sitting just inside the door. He apologized for the intrusion, but I knew what it was. Somebody in the old guard was still pushing buttons, seeing if maybe they could get a do-over. But there was nothing to find. My paperwork was tight, my boundaries clear, and my patience a mile longer than it used to be. He left with a handshake and a promise to mind his fence. I think he meant it. Funny thing was, after all that drama, after all that noise, it wasn't the big wins that stuck with me. It was the small stuff. The first wildflowers that bloomed where Karen's last sign used to be. The way the deer started wandering closer again, no longer spooked by strangers. The neighbor, Leonard, who finally planted tomatoes again and brought over a bushel just to prove a point. Guess I can grow what I want, huh? He laughed. Damn right. But peace isn't perfect, and justice isn't some Hollywood movie ending. I still had days where I'd see a strange car slow down, where a rumor would reach me about a new initiative in Birch Point, a standards committee, or some new neighbor who wanted to bring back the old ways, keep the outsiders out. They never lasted. Folks had seen the cost, seen what happened to Karen and her little circle of clipboard tyrants. Nobody wanted that. Smoke. Every now and then, I'd get a letter, anonymous, sometimes grateful, sometimes bitter, always unsigned. You broke our community. Or, you saved us. Depends which side of the line you stand on, I guess. Me? I just wanted quiet. I wanted to work my land, breathe free air, and maybe, just maybe, make it a little easier for the next guy who moves in with big dreams and no patience for manufactured authority. I'll tell you one last thing that surprised me. After all the dust settled, I realized I wasn't just fighting for myself. My stand, messy and ugly as it was, turned into a kind of rallying cry. People in other towns called, asking how to handle their own Karens, their own little fiefdoms of fear and fake rules. I started keeping a file of advice, what to record, who to call, what letters to send, what not to say when you're angry and cornered. Maybe that's my new community service. Go figure. So here I am. The woods are quiet, the sky wide open. And the only drones I hear are the bees in my tomato patch. The old sign's still there, private property. Not your HOA. Not your business. Now it's just a marker, a story, a warning, and a joke all at once. But let me ask you, since you made it this far, was I right to fight the way I did? Is there a line between protecting what's yours and tearing down the whole neighborhood spirit? Where's the balance between community and control? I'd love to hear your stories, your wins, your nightmares. Drop your thoughts below. Where do you draw the line? Because out here, that question's never really answered for good. It's just the next chapter, waiting for somebody to write it. And that's the story so far. The battle's won, the fence stands, but the debate? That's still wide open.